everyone, this is a tutorial video for the Philharmonia excerpt for HYS video auditions. This excerpt is, I would say the biggest challenge is the tempo. So it's very fast, and I think the biggest help that my biggest advice that I would say is just start very under tempo with the metronome, maybe even put it with the quarter note beats. So right now it's written half note equals 80. You could even put it at quarter note equals 70 or 80, just to kind of get everything really, really secure, the intonation and the rhythm, before you start just bumping up the tempo. Once you can play it all really under tempo, really clear, then just every day, start to move the dial of the metronome. So just maybe 4 clicks, 5 clicks a day, and then over the course of several weeks, you can get to the final tempo. I just want to also go through some fingerings that may make it a little bit easier that I found when I was preparing. So starting in measure 47, it's kind of like a series of sequences for these chromatic runs. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same fingering that I'm going to show you, but see if whatever fingering you do, you can actually do the same one, like in measure 47, and then see if you can do the same fingering in the run measure 49, and then the same fingering, whatever you decide, in measure 51. So basically, kind of think of those runs as in a sequence. It's the same kind of pattern. So the first one, so yeah, all of them, what I do is the fingering in 47, for example. So starting first finger on the G, the up bow run, I play 1, 2, 3, and then shift up to first finger on the A sharp, 1, 2, and then 3, 3, 4 on the D is 4. So okay, and then if you'll notice, you can actually play the exact same fingering in measure 49. You can start first finger on that A, the same pattern, and then the last one, measure 51, the same thing. So if you think of those instead of like each one unrelated, but if you think of each one as basically the same thing, just starting on a different note, it will be much easier, especially at the fast tempo. If you start to play different fingerings, each one, I think in the fast tempo, it will be very hard to keep straight mentally. Let's see. Then I also want to talk about the phrasing of this excerpt, because I feel like the danger for an excerpt like this, with all these fortissimos, the danger is to play just everything loud, and there's not like a hierarchy of the loudness. So basically, especially like starting measure 44, you see the forte. I would actually play this, if you notice, everything else is marked fortissimo. So the forte, surprisingly, is actually the lowest point of the piece. So maybe start this run a little bit less on the forte halfway through measure 44. And then this sequence that I was just talking about, see if you can, it may be a subtle difference, but see if you can kind of tier each of these statements of the sequence a little bit more each time. So as it moves up the register, maybe each version a little bit more. So like 46, that's where it starts. The fortissimo, dun, da, da, dum, da, da, dum. So that, fortissimo, but then see if the next one can be like fortissimo plus. And keep going. Now fortissimo plus plus. And then here is like the very peak, and then even from here, it's kind of another sequence, like maybe each one getting more and more and more intense. So whatever you can do to kind of pace this, and it may be a subtle difference, but see if you can kind of, each level is kind of getting more and more and more through the end of that sequence. And then you can also think of like measure 56, measure 57, kind of a crescendo up through that line. It's the same thing, the next 2 bars. And then the end, keep keep the fortissimo measures, I guess that's measure 60. Keep the fortissimo measure 60, 61, and then 62 is like an echo. Let's see, anything else? As far as the phrasing, I think that's the main idea. For the very beginning, actually, I think as far as the character, you want, I kind of experimented with the fingering here at the beginning as well. So at first I was kind of trying out third position, but in the tempo, I think it's actually better. So maybe just using all on the E string, then on the fourth finger, or on the C, go up to fourth finger, play that in second, back to first, back to second. So that's kind of one character, this very, very bright character. And then I would play this next part all on the G string. So we kind of have these contrasting voices. And it does come from an opera, right? So if you imagine kind of two singers, one is the soprano maybe, and one is the baritone or the bass here. So it's kind of a conversation, the kind of very, very bright sound, and then kind of a deeper, darker sound, calling back and forth. And yeah, and kind of related to this opera, I actually don't know this opera, but I was kind of reading about it to prepare for this excerpt. And it's actually based on an occupation of Sicily by the French in the 13th century. So at the end of the opera, it's very dramatic, and the Sicilians actually kill a lot of the unarmed French. And so there's there's lots of death, drama. That is kind of the character of this whole excerpt. So nothing subtle, nothing, nothing subdued. Everything is very, it's very dramatic and over the top, the whole thing. And then as far as other tips, as far as preparing for audition, I would say record yourself, start recording very early. So don't wait till the last week to start recording yourself. Make sure you check your setup. You will start to notice things about your own playing. I certainly did when I was making these recordings. And you guys have a lot of time from now, from the beginning of March to May. So if you start to record yourself even now, even in the beginning of March, then you can start to, each day, if you record yourself every single day at the end of your practice, and you notice the things that need to be fixed, then the next day when you practice, you start with those things maybe. Or, you may have a different, or you might want to record at the beginning of your practice, listen back, and then, go from there, and then do the same thing the next day. But however you do it, I think it's very helpful, especially when you are actually having to submit a video audition. Then you actually can watch, okay, how is this coming across to the audience, or whoever is listening to my audition. Okay, if you stick around the end of the video, I will play through the whole excerpt. Thanks.